Leapsheep Startup Builder Live Q&A. This is the place for startup founders to ask burning questions that are keeping you up at night and learn from our guests and startup founder support experts. Welcome, I'm your host today, Kirk Drage, and I'm the CEO and co-founder at Leapsheep. At Leapsheep, we're on a mission to flip the 95% startup failure rate, making expert and personalized startup building guidance accessible and affordable for all founders globally. Welcome to the founders that have just joined us live. It's fabulous to have you here. This show is all about supporting you to get from idea, building a business model hypothesis that can get to product market fit on paper, and then validate in the real world that it actually can before scaling up and avoiding that 95% failure rate. Thank you to all the founders that have sent questions in. And if you're joining us live on YouTube or on LinkedIn, please drop your questions into the comment section and we'll prioritize those questions during the show. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to have Margeaux Bartholomew-Carle, founder and CEO of Adant and a Leapsheep subscriber, with us today. Adant is an emerging tech platform designed to empower occupational therapists to run thriving solo practices without the burden of business administration and compliance overheads. By handling the complexity of operations and participant matching, Adant allows therapists to focus entirely on what matters most, delivering exceptional clinical care with clients they love. With over 20 years experience across healthcare, business development, and the non-profit sector, Margeaux brings a deep practical understanding of the Australian healthcare system. Margeaux, it's absolutely fabulous to have you on the show.
Thank you, Kirk. It's great to be here.
Let's jump straight in. Tell us a little bit about your background. Like, how do you go from OT to tech startup founder?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I'm a registered occupational therapist. I've worked for many years across aged care, disability, mental health, assistive technology within the Australian healthcare system, and I've experienced firsthand how much time is spent on non-clinical administrative tasks that really take you away from doing that take OTs away from doing what we are trained to do and what we love doing, which is treat clients.
Yeah, the clinical care piece.
Yeah. So look, I've was passionate about being a great clinician. That's has always been my thing.
Yeah.
That's been my dream. And now I have, but with so many discussions with, many other, fellow clinicians and this and that, it wasn't just me experiencing this problem. This was, across the board. And so I have basically taken on maybe one of the most unsexy problems in the world, that, non-clinical admin and the roadblock of that. Trying to use a tech virtual assistant, human enabled, system to automate where we can, have a human in the loop where we can, so the OTs can, allied health professionals can really focus, back on treating clients.
They say a couple of things about business. Great businesses are to be in a boring businesses.
All right.
Boring businesses are usually great businesses because people don't want to do the boring stuff. So you've got a big tick in that box, right? And they say another type of great business to build is a time machine where you can give time back to your customers, and you've got a big tick in that box. So you're right in the middle of two big business building trends, which is great to see. But you've got to cope with that boredom.
Yeah.
So you've sort of gone headfirst into the world of really understanding compliance and how to do the business side.
Compliance, scrutinizing every single workflow. From yes, I was a solo OT myself for many years. So
did you start off not as a solo OT? Did you start off working for others?
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of when I graduated, I worked in the traditional employee model, which is important. That's where I would say for most clinicians, that's where you're going to get a good clinical foundation.
Yes.
But yeah,
then you started to get itchy feet.
Hey. I sort of always knew I wanted to work for myself. The freedom, the autonomy, the maximizing the income, those were.
We'll come back to maximizing the income thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I was a single mother. I needed this career to I wanted to love the career, but I needed it
Yeah,
to be able to, support,
pay the bills.
myself, my daughter, high school, all of those sort of things. It had to
Yeah,
do both things. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So careers need to be a little bit more 9 to 5-ish when you're in that period of your life, don't they? Where you've got really intense family
Yeah.
obligations.
Yeah.
So that's where big companies can kind of really play a great part. It's a good
Yeah.
deal for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you moved out on your own as a solo practitioner. What was that like, learning how to be a business? I talk to many clinicians,
Yeah.
whether it's GPs or physiotherapists, or you all get clinically trained,
Yes.
but then you just get pushed out into the world and go, right, now you're also a business person.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get as much training on that side, do you?
No, no, and I guess I take it for granted now, and all become, I guess, almost second nature to me now. And I do forget it's now when I onboard other clinicians, and I explain to them, this is all the back end stuff that has to happen with
Yeah.
every single new client. There's got to be the referral management process, the inquiries. I mean, public indemnity insurance, just
Paying
yeah,
your taxes.
nature. But so some of these people, they're like, "What? I didn't know that." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah. You've got to issue invoices, follow up on invoices when they're not
that's
paid,
right. Yeah,
all that
that's
kind of
right.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah." And and discussing service agreements, discussing rates of your hourly rate, which are quite uncomfortable things. I'll speak for myself and for other clinicians. We really get into OT to really help people. We don't go into OT to be trying to negotiate or do deals or
Run a business. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. But this is a really interesting point for a lot of founders that we work with, because a lot of founders that I work with are coming out of corporate, or maybe they're coming directly out of university.
Mhm.
And so they're in a very similar position to these clinicians you're talking about, where they've been trained on a certain area, they've got expertise, they've got experience, but often running a business is a completely new thing. Like all the things that we just talked about
Yeah.
tax and issuing invoices and following up, like all this is kind of brand new, and it's quite a steep learning curve, isn't it? It's not easy to learn that on the job.
No, you wanna have some real guidance there. And I was lucky that I did have
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so valuable. I always sort of marvel at the Mark Zuckerberg stories of the world that you hear, that just go this incredible success stories where they've had to learn all this on the fly. And I think the answer to the question about how can they do that is, when you've got a product that's so successful, that kind of helps out of the gate. Of course, most founders sort of struggle to create that product market fit where the market's sort of pulling the product out of you. So the experience is very, very different to those stories. So, there's a word of caution there about reading some of those stories of the very successful
Yeah,
founders and following in their footsteps, because you can't
yeah,
necessarily recreate the conditions they
yeah,
had, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's good. I mean, it's one of the takeaways for founders here is, if you can, before becoming a startup founder, if you can have some experience in actually running a business, where you're either running a professional services firm, like being a solo consultant, or even if you're in a business where you're at that sort of C-suite level, even if it's a very small business,
Absolutely.
where you're
Yeah.
involved in
Yeah.
talking to customers to sell things, you're doing the back end operations things to be compliant, paying tax and insurance, as you say, following up on billing and invoicing, all those skills are things that, if you can come to the startup journey with some of those things under your belt,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going to have a head start.
Look, yeah, so, I loved, learning to be a clinician. That was what I wanted to do. But, look, I mean, I've always, in many different ways, worked for myself, as a sole trader. So that's not new to me. That's not daunting.
Yeah,
Um, and I've realized, I do love business, so I started an MBA
yeah.
as well. I would say, learn how to
Okay.
read, you need to learn how to read a profit and loss statement, learn how to do these things,
Yeah,
learn, learn from the macro level of how to look
Yeah.
at a business. It's all great to be really focused, on laser focused on your particular area or the problem, but you've got to understand how that fits in, right? To the I would
Yeah.
say a lot of
100%.
even healthcare professionals, we can look at a health problem and go, this is how we can fix it. It's not a health, it's an economic problem. It's not a,
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's so true of all problems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's such a great piece of advice to founders is look at things as an economic problem, because if you want to create a sustainable business model, the money's got to come from somewhere.
And it's not going to
Yeah,
be,
great.
it's not going to be the edge cases. It's like, that is a problem. Not denying it's a problem.
Yeah.
You got to pick the right problem, right? That find the right problem.
That's the hard bit. That's the hard bit. Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many founders fall into the trap. I know I certainly did many times in the early stages of my career of being able to find a problem and creating a solution. And you can show the problem, you can show the solution, but it's very different to create an offering. A product offering is different from a product solution. A product offering is something that a customer can and will buy. A solution is something that solves a problem, and an offering is a superset. And you've got to get the offering working if you want to create a business model that's sustainable and grows. And that's I think the big gap that a lot of founders, like myself, took so much time to figure out. You've invested so much resources and time before you go, oh, the penny sort of dropped. It's not just about creating a solution. Such an important aha moment. But tell me about the transition from now solo practitioner, being an OT, to I want to create a tech startup.
Yeah.
What happened
I
there?
still don't actually believe I'm in a tech startup. Apparently I am. Look, I validated the problem. It wasn't just me. All of the other OT. I'm very involved in the OT and health community, at large. And I found that every single time I get together with my sort of, OT colleagues or other solo, therapists, we just talked about the same stuff. We were just about, this is taking so much time. Look, it really, I guess it I felt it really personally when my father was in hospital with advanced prostate cancer. My family were there, all around him, and I remember just being at home going, I can't see him because I'm so behind on all this invoicing. I've got to keep up on that.
Wow.
That's an example. I've missed a lot of time with my daughter as well, and so
it's painful.
I really just thought there has to be a better way.
Someone has to fix this, right?
Clinicians have to, choose between caring for people and being buried in paperwork. That's sort of, and this stuff, I could see it as well. It's, it's really important to delineate between clinical admin. That is absolutely what we're APRA registered. We must keep notes, so I'm not saying any of that stuff. All clinicians know what we must do in terms of case notes.
Clinical care,
absolutely. But I'm talking about inquiries. I'm talking about referral management, where service agreements,
following up on invoices, all that.
An appointment, changing an appointment.
That's so time consuming.
Oh, actually, no, you're a pediatric OT. Well, you've got to coordinate with the school, with the client, and yourself just to make an appointment. It can take an hour and a half just to make an hour appointment.
Wow. That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. Wow, what a personal
So
origin
I would sort of go,
story.
yes, it's not, yeah, it's, easily 30 to 40%, which would be 2.5 to 3 hours a day is
Yeah,
spent on this,
overhead.
non-clinical admin tasks. And,
Yeah. So when you're working for that,
we've got waiting lists. We've got people that, you know, can't see an OT, that need equipment, so it's really, can't we be better utilizing our time?
yeah. This is where we all talk about the future of
Yes.
AI taking
Yeah,
over our
yeah.
jobs. It's like these jobs, yeah,
Yeah,
please
well,
let's have AI
that's
take
right. There's a
over
lot of
those
talk of
jobs, right?
AI, and people ask me, because it has been, yes, we use technology, AI, automation, and they're like, oh, so what AI? How are you using AI? Thinking I'm using it clinically? I'm not using it clinically.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
yeah,
No, it's for the
yeah,
really, it's for the back end.
yeah. It's to
We're
make more clinical time.
understanding the workflows and what part of that can be automated. Can we use AI for? Where does a human have to be in the loop to keep the quality of that? So
Yeah,
it has involved, training virtual assistants as well.
yeah, right. So there's a ton of really interesting things to unpack there that you've touched on. One is the fact that you've got a history as an OT. So your client, your target client, your ideal customer profile is the language we use in startup space. You come from that world, so immediately you've got amazing credibility because you've been doing the job for years and years. And I think that's something to really call out in terms of if you're a founder on the journey. One of the hardest things to build is trust and credibility, and you need trust and credibility in many spaces. But in terms of understanding the customer, it's so good having that background. And the next thing that once you know your ideal customer profile is then to start doing some user research. So those conversations that you're talking about that you're having with your friends that are OTs, that's essentially years of user
It was,
research.
and now
You're doing.
when I took it a bit further, I was lucky enough to get a place in the Venture Catalyst program at UniSA last year, and
Yeah.
that was allowed me to have a bit more structure, right, and formal guidance. And yes, I realized that I had been having hundreds of conversations with fellow clinicians, support coordinators, families, all that. But that kind of forced me to go out and do that in a more structured way. And
Way,
I
yeah.
guess,
So what led you to deciding to apply for the Venture Catalyst program?
okay, so yeah,
Because you sort of said you don't sort of see yourself as a founder,
no,
do you? I think sort of you're not your typical
no, I don't.
startup founder. Yeah.
No, I sort of.
So what prompted you to apply?
Okay, so I, yes, as I said, I just wanted to be a great clinician. I didn't want to be an academic. I just wanted to be a great clinician.
Yeah.
However, when I started being a clinician, I started getting, really frustrated or about, it's like I could affect change on a one-on-one basis with a patient, with a client, but I could just see
Yeah.
these huge, more macro problems, I guess, that were, I just thought, things need to be done on I guess, a bigger scale. And I got, so I definitely got itchy feet. I was introduced to NTP Connect, which is a really a fascinating. I found it fascinating. It became like my hobby to go along to their monthly fireside chats where they would be talking to often other founders, right, in Healthtech, biotech, life sciences, pharma, and I listened to all these stories and challenges, and became incredibly fascinated, I guess, about the it's not the business side of it, but I guess I would say, yes, the more the macro, right? Of if you're going to do things, yes, you have to look at, like, from all angles.
Did you feel a sense of
Yeah,
connection with the people there? Because what you're describing is something that, I come across
right.
all the time with founders, and that is that founders are generally people that are not satisfied with the status
Yeah,
quo, and they want to
yeah,
make change. And I hear so often, and I was this person in corporate world, is you're a nuisance to your management and your management team because you're like, why don't we change this? Why don't we do this? Why don't we fix this? And it's like, go
yeah,
away. That sounds like hard work and
yeah,
expense and cost.
yeah,
But you're just not happy with the
yeah.
way that things are. So
I
did you
did,
find that
and I found
running
as
those
well,
things,
like,
you found the community?
I found it amazing that, I was around people that were, you know, nuclear
Also
medicine
unhappy with
nuclear
the status quo.
medicine and,
Yeah,
quantum mechanics and, aerospace and things like this, right? Things that are completely, maybe you
yeah,
might think, not related to health, but you can actually always find an overlap. You just can. And,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and I just really loved being around this community of people that are obviously so weird because they just don't go home and watch TV, in the evening. They're like, "No, I'm gonna look at this problem,"
yeah,
and I loved being around it. And then I,
yeah,
was sort of introduced to the so that's right. I got really, excited about assistive technology and emerging assistive technology, and I wanted to
yeah, right,
showcase emerging assistive technology, and, um,
yeah.
and I
So by assistive technology, you're
assist
talking about technology that
yes,
supports,
people
uh,
aging in place, disability, you might think of power wheelchairs, you might think of, um,
yeah, right,
visual assistants,
alerts, fall
you might
alerts, that
think
sort of
of,
thing.
even looks, speech to text, all these sort of things,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I got really excited about what was happening in that space, and I wanted to promote early emerging assistive technology companies and things like that. Um, I I volunteered for ARIA, the Aged Care
yeah,
Research Institute, and the Medical Device Partnering Program, and I was on a panel
yeah,
where I there was a lot of us, but we were giving feedback um, to I guess founders, that we had brought in technology,
mhm,
that were creating something, and we were to give feedback on
right.
whether we saw it
So
as viable, all these sort of things. And now I've got to say, after a few of those experiences, I lost my passion for wanting to champion, new and emerging assistive.
what
Why?
happened? What happened?
Because I felt like a lot of the time I was just giving them bad news. I was going, "This is already out there.
Yeah,
This is
right.
you haven't checked. You haven't checked that is what
Mm.
you're like, you haven't checked your competition. You have." Yeah, so
Yeah.
yes, it was just seeing a lot of those, gaps. So, um, yeah, I did, and yes, I then, wanted to learn more, and so, started, an MBA. I and then
So did you at this point think you could do a better job at creating some technology to help?
well,
Was that part of your thinking, or
I
did you just
well,
completely lose interest?
I kinda really loitered and lurked around all these things for at least 18 months, like, before.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess I learned a lot of seeing the pitfalls, seeing the blind spots that other companies
yeah,
had, and, especially with MTP Connect, that other founders were very candid about saying, "When I did this, I did, that." Now, hey, I've still had my own blind spots. Like, um,
yep, we all do.
sort of thing. I've stumbled, that's for sure, but, um
So you started an MBA,
and
and
then I
then
started the business.
what?
So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm still doing
So,
it.
why you had your NDA, you had the
Absolutely.
vision for
I
starting
did.
Adant
Yes.
at that
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
mm.
awesome, awesome. And so then you got introduced to the team at the ICC,
Yes.
did you, and learn about the
Yes,
program?
that's right.
Yep.
Yes, and I'd been exposed to, through MTP Connect, I'd been exposed to a few other companies that had been through the program as well. And
Yep.
at that stage, I did start this with a co-founder, and I've got to say, yeah, this business isn't something I would have chosen to undertake all on my own. It wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't something I ever saw myself as doing all by myself. It's just
Yeah. And is that because you really wanted the technical side because you don't come from that technology background, or what sort of drove you to want a co-founder?
I didn't want to do it on my own. I do know myself.
Yeah.
I think I do work better with someone else. It helps me, I think, stay more accountable, and things like that. It shares the burden, the emotional burden, the
Yeah.
stress, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I can completely
Yeah.
relate to that. I can totally relate to that, yeah. Look, so some founders are different. Some founders just wanna do things by
Yeah.
themselves and work well by themselves, and others aren't, and I think it's, one of the takeaways here is there's such a diversity in founders. You've gotta figure out what's right for you, and you can't just follow a model. You've gotta actually figure out, how you work and what's best for you. So yeah, having a co-founder, I can completely relate to that.
Now, look, we didn't. We ended up parting ways, and that was a challenge. To also get through. And and since then I have been doing it myself. And I've had many other discussions with other founders, whether they have a co-founder or not, and just the pros, the cons, the trade-offs, the this and that, and there's not one size fits all. There just isn't. Well, right for
No.
someone might. So.
And finding co-founders is so difficult. It
Yeah,
really is.
that.
A lot of founders go into the journey thinking, "I can just select somebody."
Yeah, I went in
But
absolutely just very, very naive. As I said, I've worked for myself for many years. I'm very familiar with that. But working, creating a company where you're going to be hiring people, you're going to need to create a team. You're going to be dealing with, hundreds of OTs, thousands and thousands of clients, patients, I mean, that's a different.
And of course, building a product startup where the product is not something you can sort of sit down and plan and just build and release. You've got to spend the time with the market and explore where the needs are and what people will pay for, and that's a whole evolutionary
in health. I mean,
process.
things keep changing. It's not it's not static. It's dynamic.
Yeah.
There's little changes and those little changes can really mean big changes for a company that manages admin. Health is move fast and break things does not work in health. No.
Doesn't work.
So that's safety, data, compliance, all those things, they're not afterthoughts. They have to be built in from the start.
So that's a great segue. Let's talk about what do you see as some of the common mistakes in health tech? We've got quite a few tech and care tech space. What do you see as some of those common mistakes?
Well, I would say your user isn't necessarily. You can't just look at it of the end user. There are multiple. There are families. There are clinicians. There are case managers, support
insurance companies.
Insurance companies. All these sort of things. So, but I would say what do common mistakes in health tech. So, people not understanding the existing workflows. All right. they identify a problem, and but it has to fit in. You've got to understand the existing workflow, and you've got to scrutinize. And if you're going to do something that's going to make someone have to press one extra button, and that's a solution, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No one's going to press an extra button. So really understand the existing workflows, and understanding, you've got to understand who's paying for it.
Yeah. So it's the economic buyer as well as
pay for it.
the end user, as well as all the
and the end user, the patient may not be paying for it.
Yeah.
Like the government, it's right. So
that comes down to the difference we were talking earlier about. It's not just about building a solution, but it's about building an offering that the customer can buy and deploy and use and get a great result out of, which is a way more difficult problem than just solving a problem.
And look, compliances. I mean, basically, if you're creating something that's check whether it's going to be classed as a medical device, even if it's software. If it's going to be classed as a medical device, you've got to go through all that. That's a lot. And don't do that after. Don't create all this stuff and then go, oh, we've just got to get approval now. Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a couple of buckets that I really see that you're sort of calling out here. One is underestimating the complexity in the healthcare environment. That's sort of one thing that I think you're calling out, and that's really easy for technical founders that don't have a healthcare background to fall into that camp. And then the other camp is when you get someone that's more from the clinical world and understands the complexities, is figuring out, or how do you make a solution that can actually be deployed, and understanding those workflows that you're talking about and how technology can actually interact with those workflows, because often those workflows get very complicated, right?
Yeah, the interoperability is also another massive, I guess it's a massive challenge. You've got to understand the existing systems.
Yeah, how to get to other data, how to maintain the privacy, all of that. Things.
That's not optional. It's mandatory.
Yeah, fascinating. And the other big category that I see as well is governments or private health doing innovative projects to solve a problem, and it's a problem that can't be commercialized because they've got some unique set of circumstances they've created to create a solution which might be good for them, but it's not able to be scaled because they haven't thought about how to sell and market it and deploy into other environments. They're the three big buckets I see: like technical founders, non-technical founders, and building projects instead of products. And we waste so much money in those three buckets. So if you can be aware of them before you start, we can create a lot more impact in the health system. Awesome. What about, you've sort of talked a little bit about this, about balancing needs and compliance for your own business. You've talked about the fact that, you've got to do service agreements, and that's a pain point. And what's the advice for founders that are sort of going through this process? Where do they spend their time sort of learning about compliance versus learning about user needs, and how have you managed that in your business?
Okay, well, I guess that is where that is the benefit of being a clinician myself, as in, I'm APRA registered, and so I have got all my APRA obligations to continue to be a registered clinician, so I understand them very well. I would say it's learning. I would say, as much as massive clinical background, my own experiences of as an OT, and really, I thought I was pretty across it. But my experience has been in the conversations that I've forced myself to have, that other OTs, OTs it's a huge field, and there's a lot of different specializations, and other OTs, pediatric OTs, work completely differently than me. Like their workflow is different. The way
So you've had a bit of a learning curve, even as a clinician. You've had a learning curve.
Massively, yeah. I really thought the ideal customer profile. I thought I was pretty tight on that. I thought, OTs that want to work independently, that have had, had a fair amount of experience, not new grads, APRA registered, and
but it turned out there were many flavors of those that have got different
needs.
Yeah.
And I'd inadvertent, I'd creeped out. I creeped out at that scope. Like,
So a lot of what we've talked about is doing things manually before you try and scale.
Yes.
And that period that you've been through of doing things manually, where you've learnt about all these sort of use cases, is that part of what's helped you? Can you talk a little bit about that?
My thing is, I've always it's been lean, and I guess it's been agile. So I, whilst doing things manually, has, I guess, been kind of slow and painful, and it feels like I think it feels like you're sort of standing still sometimes. People keep saying, they go, oh, so what's this? What's going on in your platform development, this and that. And it's like, well, actually, we're using some already existing and trustworthy tools, and we're creating workflows around them and
testing the workflows.
It's low risk, right? It's sort of we can change. Yeah, so we can change the low risk and not permanent.
Yeah.
Right. So I have, yes, it's taken time, but I haven't. It would have saved me a lot of money. And you know what? I go now from all these learnings. I go, what's earned? What's earned to be automated? It needs to earn itself to be automated, right? It has to be scalable. There has to be enough use cases. Can't just be those edge cases and this and that.
Yeah, that's where I think a non-equity accelerator program like the ICC gives founders the space. You're not going for demo day to try and pitch for some funding too early and trying to represent yourself as someone that's going to grow like crazy straight out of the gate. You're taking the time that you need to really understand your customer.
In the best way, and really, I guess, forces you to challenge, your preconceived ideas, what you maybe thought you were pretty set on.
What would you say to founders that are sort of at that early stage where they've got a product idea and they want to get the product built so they can launch it into the customer space?
I understand the draw to that, because I still in a lot of my discussions, sort of on the street, I still feel like people kind of encourage you to do that. Okay, that seems to be the narrative. Do that. There's pressure to do that. That's seen as the pathway. Quite still.
I think you're absolutely right. That's frightening.
Really frightening, because you know what? I thought it was the pathway, and I did start. I did start that. And then luckily I backtracked, and I did. I lost a bit of money, but not enough to not enough to cripple me. And I would say, okay, so I really learnt, and this is what I'll take away, from this. I learnt to look at whether it's the product, whether it's the problem, whether this and that. Look at it as an experiment, and if you can go into that mindset of, okay, a hypothesis. I think that this is a big enough of a problem that these people will buy it, and I think it can be scalable. Now, how can I prove it before building it? How can I prove it? So that is going to be manual. That's going to be a bit, messy, but it means it's not permanent. It means that, you can flip to something else. You might discover another problem. You might discover a better one, or sort of thing. So I feel like if you can look, I think it's wonderful to be in that, being obsessed with problems. It really is. But don't be so, let it be a learning, let it guide you. Let your conversations, let them guide you. Don't be fixed about where it's going to go.
That's great. That's great advice, because you're really co-developing. It's this build and launch mindset that we have, that, as you say, gets encouraged, which is totally the wrong thing.
A lot of money, and you don't mind about burning, lots of money, and then if you got that, no problem. But I certainly don't.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring in a couple of listeners that have got some interesting comments. So sort of talking about OT compliance solutions aren't transferable worldwide. How do you think about that? Are you building a global company? Are you?
Australian healthcare, APRA compliances. Yes. There are different compliances. The NHS, the UK is different. The US is different. Canada is different. They're probably the ones that are most similar to Australian compliances. Absolutely. As aren't the same. That isn't that part of it. That's just different documentation. That's just different, getting different systems, operating procedures to comply.
It's a little bit like Uber, isn't it? Every country's got different licensing requirements, but that's not a problem. So that's a good way to answer that. So thanks Simon for that question. I think Simon's also pointed out here, and I don't know why it's not showing his name there, but he said Australia has so much red tape, which is really true.
It is. I mean, look, that is why there is so much, non-clinical admin to do. That's red tape, isn't it? That's what it is.
This is why there's potentially a business to be built here. If there was no red tape, if this was all easy, then you wouldn't have a business to build.
That'd be fine.
But because things are hard and painful, your customers need a solution.
There is a red, and honestly, it's getting worse, and it's contributing to so much clinician burnout. It's contributing. Non-clinical admin. It's over 70% of OTs that are they say that is their major problem, and wanting to leave the workforce and this and that. So, I
mean that's a great result if you can create better clinical outcomes for the patient, and you can also help retain people in the industry. That's a bit of a dream outcome, isn't it? Yeah, that's fabulous. So how have you built early traction? What advice can you give to founders about maybe how you thought you might build early traction, what's actually happened, and can you talk about that a little bit?
So early stages, mid last year, when I was doing the Venture Catalyst program, I probably had within 3 or 4. I mean, I'd had many discussions with OTs, right? And
these are OTs you already knew.
A lot of them already knew. Now, look, I've got to say, I have always been I've been very active in the OT community, so it wasn't hard for me to. I've got a really big network Australia-wide of OTs. That wasn't something I had to go and build, because I already had that. I was, it's a community. So yes, had some an OTs that were initially interested and wanted to when I say join, it's sort of they wanted to, I guess, use the services we were offering and pay for it. I really had to hold back, because I had I kept getting excited when I'd get email inquiries going, another OT wants to join. You know, it felt really, really good. It's a bit of a high. It's a bit good dopamine hit. But also, I have done this in the past. I mean, I guess the Venture Catalyst program held me, you know, back from basically growing too fast. I know what would have happened, and look, this did happen anyhow. You know, mistakes were made. Things weren't perfect. Yeah. So I guess so luckily it was just with those very small, close group of OTs, not another 20, you know.
So you did sort of a private invite only beta with a small number of clients.
Yeah, and very
much
about it. This is a real co-design process, and I was encouraged to say that. I was encouraged to be just transparent right from the start. You know.
How did that feel? How did that feel at the time? Was that
felt really natural to me. But again, I felt like there was actually more outside pressure to act like it was all great and all solid and we could do everything and it was
you had the product all worked out.
I felt like there was pressure to act like that, which felt really
pressure from outside the ICC.
outside which felt really didn't feel comfortable. So when I got the permission, you know, from I guess the ICC, you know, you were a mentor, you know, Leadership was, you know, provided mentoring services there too, to actually be really transparent and all that. It was like a relief.
That's so good.
You're right.
I think there's nothing better than being in that environment that, you know, the ICC provides, which is give you the permission to actually learn, because that's really what we're talking about.
And to tell these people that we're on this journey, and I guess the biggest thing. One of the bigger things that I learned, it was just, to, you know, and these are not always easy conversations to have, but it was to be transparent. And, you know, I went through a really, a massive, you know, sort of setback. And
you survived.
Had to have these conversations with these OTs that had joined, that I had said, yes, we will do this for you, and there came a point where I couldn't meet the obligations that I had said I would do.
Yeah, right.
And you know, that felt horrible, right? Like, and I mean, you know, my natural thing is to run away, don't, you know, but I got absolute guidance of literally how to have those conversations. And those OTs stuck with me.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, sometimes when you have those hard conversations and you're very authentic and honest, customers appreciate it so much. They're like, I don't get this from anywhere else. Like, you don't deal with big companies and get that level of honesty, right? And that's where startup founders can have such a competitive advantage to say, look, things didn't go how I expected, but I'm still absolutely committed to the outcome. I'll overinvest in you and as a customer because I want to make things right. And customers are like, well, that's all I can ask for. Actually, that's all I want from any business that I work with, is actually to care about my outcomes. And
I guess that's probably, I realize now, that's one of our major strengths is our responsiveness, right? And that's not always.
It's the number one piece of feedback for businesses,
getting things right. We don't get things right. We make mistakes. But we friggin' own them, and we rectify them as soon as possible. And we let people know every step of the way where it's at. They're never going to be waiting 3 days for a reply on an email so they know it's being attended to.
Yeah, that's such great advice, is just to be that open and transparent. And look, this is what everyone's talking about at the moment, is trust and authenticity. In a world of AI, where you're not sure who you can trust, you're going 180 degrees in the other direction, which is maximum trust, maximum authenticity. which I think is, great guidance for any founder.
Yeah, I mean, like this sort of all this sort of AI stuff and this and that. The human experience is sort of going to be a luxury, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's going to be the
There was
differentiator.
also, I'm interested. Yeah, also when I kind of, when I, started, creating sort of my company and this and that, there was just so much hype around. Everyone was like, "Oh, right, so you're gonna software as a service, software, a SaaS thing. It's gonna be a SaaS thing." And I was like, "I don't know. I think I'm doing a bit more of service," which was a bit like, "Oh, it's not something you can automate," and a bit like it was a bit of a not as that wasn't cool,
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I feel like I'm seeing that service can be scalable.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, with AI and software. What the new word is, services software.
Okay.
So we've gone from software as a service
Okay.
to services software.
Right.
And that's it's all going back to first principles. And first principles is, what does the customer need? If we're building a business around what customers actually need and generating outcomes for customers, and we can add technology to help scale the experience, then you're going to be good. It's a fascinating journey. It's so great to have you share that experience, and what a great role the ICC played in providing that sort of protective bubble to give you the permission to experiment and not have to sort of grow at any cost. Because I think a lot of founders do feel that.
They do, and it really saddens me. And I know, because it was the narrative that was out there. It's still out there.
Yeah, it's still out there.
It is. It's there's another way. You can validate. You can work out whether has it earned the right to be built. And
yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Yeah. Look, we're starting to come to the end of the show, and I've got a couple of questions that have come in that I wanted to have an opportunity to answer. Let's perhaps just quick fire a couple of these. Here we go. We've got me from Perth. We're a small health tech team trying to design for users with accessibility needs, but not sure if we're getting it right. What's your approach to inclusive design? You got thoughts on that inclusive design?
Absolutely. I mean, as OT, we're at the sort of the forefront, of accessibility and inclusive design. Now, I must say, look, at the moment, yes, my website needs to be more accessible and inclusive, and that's in the near future to do inclusive, but.
So what you're saying there is
there. I mean, there are a lot of resources out there in terms of look, the Royal Society for the Blind, blind or seeing differently, around accessible design these days. Accessible design or inclusive design is sort of now what I'm seeing. It's not become a afterthought or it's becoming mainstream. It's just becoming expected. Right, it is.
The other thing I would say, and I'd be interested if you would agree with this, is don't feel the pressure to be inclusive from day one, because there's an order of operations here. If there's no business value, and if you can't identify the economic buyer and the finances that you mentioned earlier, then the inclusivity is not going to matter. So you need to give yourself permission
to start with. You can be inclusive by going, well, we will phone call you or do this or do that and explain. It may not be that it may not be that your tech may not be perfect and inclusive from day one. You can be.
That's great advice. Yeah.
That's workarounds, right?
Yeah. But again, don't feel this pressure to conform with, we have to have this amazing inclusive website. As you say, it's about you being inclusive, not your technology from day one.
Yeah.
You'll get there. If you're building a sustainable business,
you absolutely will.
Yeah, that's great advice. Last question is, if you were starting Adant again today, what would you do differently? What were some of the biggest lessons? You've talked a little bit about that, but perhaps the first part of that question, how would you do things differently?
I would document systems and operating procedures from day one.
That sounds arduous, but with AI these days, like a tip that I have is, like, every time I finish a meeting, I do a talk to camera video and just debrief.
Well, basically, I mean, people sort of go, "How's your development going?" I'm like, right now, every single hour develop, like every yes, it's all documented. This will be the framework. This is the blueprint for what's going to be developed. And I would, in this, I know back in day one, though, I wouldn't have done it, but I would have been a lot clearer about my ideal customer profile, and not sort of creeping, not over servicing. I've also over servicing, saying no to those edge cases, like if people go, "Oh, can you do that?" "Yeah, we can do that." "Oh, but it's just going to take 40 and 60 hours of my staff to change that bit for that one."
One use case.
So very much stay, pick that one, sort of type of OT, one funding system, get that right. Then you can.
It's the niche before you.
I know, and it's really hard though, because it's, when you're starting, you just feel like any customer's a good customer, right?
It's hard, and I say this to founders all the time. Like, it's a bit like learning chess. You can learn the rules of building startups in a relatively short amount of time. We can teach you that in about 3 hours, but it takes years to sort of internalize all those rules and actually start to put them into real world practice, and fight some of your own biases and preconceptions and all of this sort of misaligned expectation that gets pushed on you.
I'd also just go, I would have I did build a good network, but I would have built more of a network of founders,
Wow.
Yep.
Because I mean, one of the things that we talked about is you had an amazing personal brand amongst the OT community, because you'd already been networking, and you had effectively had an audience. You might not use the words that I'm using to describe this, but you had that when you started.
But founder startup life, I had a very different idea, and now I'm in that community, that I find that community incredibly supportive. And it really is. It is, getting through the hard and tough and challenging times. It's a cycle. I go through slumps. I go through, and it has been the people around me. It's talk to other founders. I have thought some of my I haven't wanted to share them because I've been embarrassed, being like, "Oh gosh, this is so disastrous." And then just like you or something, and you're like, "Oh, just another day in the life of a founder. That's it." "Oh, is that it?" "Oh, okay." Radio. Just talk to other founders. They're all going through it.
That's a great note. That's a great note to end on. Talk to other founders and talk to people that have been through it before, because you're probably not going through anything that other people haven't gone through, and things can always be fixed. Margeaux, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been such an interesting conversation to learn about your journey and your background and where you're at. And congratulations, you're doing a fabulous job with the progress with Adant. If people want to contact you, I think I've got a slide here if I can figure out how to use this. There's a QR code there, but if you've got OTs,
absolutely, I always love speaking to OTs. If they are interested in chatting, whether it be about independent practice, whether it be about the industry in general, software development,
and it can be not only not only looking for your solution, but also if they've got problems in the OT space that they'd like to share with you. You're always interested in learning more about what the community is experiencing.
Yeah.
And support coordinators as well.
Yes, I mean, that's the other side of it, so it's not just creating a great experience for OTs, it's creating a great experience for support coordinators and case managers and this and that too. It has to be both ways. Yeah.
100%.
And also, look, other, clinicians, allied health professionals, software developers that are interested in being a part of our next chapter.
Awesome. That's fabulous. Margeaux, thanks so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Now, we have coming up on the 19th of September, we've got Andy Graham and Dane Eldridge from StackUp. These two guys are absolutely fabulous. Andy has got an amazing background running IT departments, doing acquisitions of companies and integrating them in, so merger and acquisition experience. Dane is a software developer that's run an agency for a long time, built a lot of startup apps, and they've come together to build an amazing solution called StackUp. And we're going to have them on talking about that journey. It's an amazing journey with a couple of really experienced guys. So looking forward to that. If you want to join, there's a QR code there to get registered, and there's another QR code to ask questions if you want to ask questions. And of course, as always, if you're a startup founder and you're looking for more clarity on the journey and you want to dig into some of the impediments and challenges that you've got, and you want to be able to get the customer traction that you desire with less risk, less time, less capital, at LeapSheep, we have something called a Startup Builder Strategy Session. I guarantee it'll be the best 3 hours that you ever spend with your startup, of learning the rules of startup building and just getting the clarity you need to how to spend your resources as effectively as possible to get to startup success. And there's a QR code there to book that session. If you don't feel you're ready for that yet, there's a second QR code there just to book and have a chat. I love chatting to founders, listening to your stories, listening to the challenges and the vision of where you want to go, and perhaps help connect you to people that can help you on your journey, if that's not us. So that's the show for this week. Looking forward to seeing everybody on the 19th. Margeaux, thank you again. Look forward to the next edition of the Startup Builder Live Q&A.
Thanks, Kirk.